Hello world, first up in today's roundup of cybersecurity tech news. A brand new campaign involving bad USBs has been spotted in the wild. This is coming from the FBI, which explains that those targeted include businesses in the transportation and insurance industries, and even defense firms. These attacks come in the form of bad USBs being physically mailed to companies, disguised as either coming from Amazon or the US Department of Health and Human Services. Now, the FBI hasn't explained exactly what the cover story for these USB sticks was, but somehow accompanying letters in the packages will have encouraged victims to plug the USB sticks in, and when they did, these things injected keystrokes which typed out a PowerShell script, downloading malware. Surprise, surprise. Now, I'm assuming you guys know what a bad USB is. If not, see my video up here. Bad USB hacks in the real world are incredibly rare. Why? Well, because it's a lot of effort and it comes with a high risk of getting caught. The physical world, for the most part, just isn't the black hat's domain. It's much easier for them to send spear phishing emails from their basements. It's what they know. By shipping a physical thing, they now have to worry about fingerprints on the device, potentially CCTV in post offices, and so on. The hassle just isn't worth it. I think this is why we don't see many bad USB hacks IRL. In fact, the only other bad USB hack in the real world that I'm aware of is one that took place a couple of years ago. The miscreants impersonated Best Buy with a gift card that only worked with a list of products apparently stored on the USB stick. Funnily enough, both that attack and this latest one were perpetrated by Fin7, a famous cybercrime gang, often described as a billion-dollar hacking group because they're notorious for stealing millions of credit cards and hacking thousands of businesses. And I couldn't help but notice that these bad USB attacks have specifically used Bad Beetle USB devices or those with a LilyGo logo. These are all Arduino-based bad USBs, and the fact that these things even exist at all is probably my fault. Allow me to explain. Now, I didn't invent the concept of the bad USB. I also didn't invent the concept of keystroke injection using Arduino development boards. However, what I did do was kind of put the two together and popularize the concept of an Arduino-based bad USB. You can go back to my videos from 4 years ago when I made a proof of concept bad USB device based around Arduino, after which I made the Malduino, which was, as far as I'm aware, the first commercially available Arduino-based bad USB. It was only after I made the Malduino that cheaper copies like this one started popping up on sites like AliExpress. Oh, look at that! It's exactly the same one that was used in the Best Buy scam. Unfortunately, because news of this latest bad USB campaign came from the FBI, there isn't much publicly available knowledge on the saga, so we don't know which companies specifically were targeted or even what the end goal was here. Ransomware, perhaps? I think you guys are really going to appreciate this little nugget of poetic justice, in that no matter how polarized the world may have become, we can all agree on one universal truth. Printer ink is too bloody expensive. Whenever there's a Reddit post on criminally overpriced things, printer ink pretty much always takes the cake. And one of the great enablers of overpriced ink is that cartridges often come with DRM chips. These chips verify that an ink cartridge is genuine, so if you use a cartridge without one of these chips, the printer will suss it out, and depending on the brand, the printer will sometimes even just refuse to work. Not all brands do this, so you can usually avoid it by researching a printer before you buy it. But even if you buy a printer that accepts third-party cartridges, it's not guaranteed that the printer manufacturer, say for example HP, won't roll out a firmware update after you buy it, preventing your printer from using anything but genuine cartridges. And this has happened. Last year, someone even tried to bring a class action lawsuit against HP after they did this very thing to his printers. But before you grab your pitchforks to join in, the judge threw out the case, in part because HP printer boxes come laden with warnings not to use anything but genuine ink, so apparently that absolves them of any wrongdoing. But anyway, as the global chip shortage rages on, the supply of chips that enable DRM is drying up fast. Canon in particular has been having so much trouble getting them that they're now having to ship ink without them. A press release on Canon's website explains that they've decided to ship cartridges without these semiconductor components until normal supply is restored. They've even had to post instructions on how to bypass the angry prompts from printers, which will just assume that you're using non-genuine ink. Luckily though, when it comes to Canon printers at least, you just need to press close on the prompt and the ink will work perfectly fine, except you won't be able to tell how much ink you've got left, as Canon chose to prevent third-party cartridges from even being able to tell the level of ink to the printer. Whilst it is possible and even likely that the chips Canon needs are just unavailable, there's also a good chance that the chips are very much so available, but that the price of them has skyrocketed to such a point that it no longer makes sense to even use them. It's been a while since I've seen Kazakhstan in the news for anything unrelated to Borat, but I'm pretty sure at this point you'll have heard of all the anti-government protests. It's been really pretty intense the past week or so, but the reason I wanted to talk about it is that there have been reports that the Kazakh government has been screwing with people's internet connections, presumably in an attempt to hamper protests. We've seen this recently in other countries like Sudan and Myanmar. It's really become typical of authoritarian regimes at this point, where instead of censoring specific websites, those in charge unplug the metaphorical Ethernet cable to the whole country, making it hard for people to organise protests. Cloudflare has reported instances of Kazakh internet traffic dropping to pretty much zero. Literally turning off the internet is a pretty nuclear censorship tool, and given it affects a country's ability to do a lot of other things other than just protest, these outages tend not to last too long, and so the internet is, at the moment at least, back to normal. However, Google Trends shows that in the last few days the demand for VPNs from Kazakhs has absolutely skyrocketed, particularly in the Almaty region, which, as I understand it, is at the epicenter of all the protests. And whilst a VPN can't get around a literal internet outage, it can help circumnavigate blocks of certain websites, if, or probably more so when, the government decides to start blocking things. And don't worry, no VPN ad is coming up next, I promise. I don't have many Kazakh viewers, and I did the maths. About 0.006% of my views come from Kazakhstan, but for the 2 Kazakh viewers I have, I'll link an article from the Tor project of how you can use Tor in Kazakhstan. It's a little more complicated for you guys as your government has been known to mess with and censor Tor, so you might need to use a Tor bridge. Screwing with Tor is one thing, but it gets even crazier in that the Kazakh government has launched several campaigns in the last few years, pushing their citizens to even install a government-issued root certificate on their browsers. This would essentially give the government the ability to intercept and read HTTPS encrypted traffic. It's a pretty audacious thing to even try, and in response, both Google and Mozilla announced that they would be protecting their users by blocking the certificates from even being installed manually in their browsers. This video was made possible by Intigriti, Europe's biggest bug bounty platform, allowing you to make hard cash in exchange for finding and reporting security vulnerabilities. Intigriti stands out based on their focus on their community, with monthly challenges, weekly newsletters, and their own YouTube videos in which they cover new tools and hacking techniques. Despite amassing over 40,000 active security researchers, they maintain blazing fast triages, typically getting back to reports in under 24 hours. Intigriti uses your goals and skills to connect you with their ever-increasing array of over 200 active programs with millions of bounties already paid out. Join Intigriti's vibrant and growing community today. Create an account via the link in the video description. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to spam the like button, preferably an odd number of times, scrub and subscribe, and follow me on the Instagrams. I'm @Jonty. As always, stay tuned for more hacking videos, and have a good one.